Hi, everyone. Pastor Zac here with Neighborhood Church, coming to you on your Wednesday morning, my Tuesday afternoon, with part 2 of our previous Sunday's sermon. And so whether you're joining us either for the first time via Facebook or our YouTube channel, I want to thank you guys for taking the time to do this. And so we are in the second section of the Gospel of Matthew. And this section is where Jesus begins to live out the teachings from his Sermon on the Mount. And we begin to see the kingdom of God, quite literally, invade people's lives. We saw it this past Sunday with the healing of the leper, and we're going to see it today with the healing of the Roman centurion's servant. And so, let's dive right in, let's jump in and finish up this part 2 of the Sunday sermon. And so I have the words for you here on the screen, and I'm going to read them for you. When Jesus had entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him asking for help. "Lord," he said, "my servant lies at home, paralyzed, suffering terribly." Jesus said to him, "Shall I come and heal him?" The centurion replied, "Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof, but just say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority with soldiers under me. I tell this one, go, and he goes, and I tell that one, come, and he comes. And I say to my servant, do this, and he does it." When Jesus heard this, he was amazed and said to those following him, "Truly, I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith." So I want you to kind of keep in mind here that these people who are following Jesus are primarily Jews who are under the oppressive Roman rule of the empire. And this centurion represents the enemy that Jesus speaks of in the Sermon on the Mount. This centurion is hated by all of the Jews. And so I want you all to kind of keep this in mind as we read this story today, because it will help bring significance and meaning to what Jesus has for us for this story for us in today, the 21st century. And if you notice there at the end here, let me pull it back up for you. The end here, when Jesus heard this, he was amazed and said to those following him, "Truly, I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith." Jesus kind of drops a bomb right there, and he compares the faith of this soldier to the faithlessness of Israel, which would kind of be like Jesus saying that an Egyptian had greater faith in God than the Israelites who were slaves to the nation of Egypt. And so Jesus is continuing to blow up people's paradigms in regards to his teaching. And he goes on further to say, in verse 11, "I say to you that many will come from the east and the west and will take their places at the feast with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the subjects of the kingdom will be thrown outside into the darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." Then Jesus said to the centurion, "Go, let it be done just as you believed it would." And his servant was healed at that moment. Telling his hearers, Jesus was telling everybody who was listening, and even to us today, that if you're banking on your ancestral heritage to get to that feast with the fathers of the Jewish faith, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that soldier and many others, they are going to be there. And those people that were listening at that time, they're not going to be there. Not only will they not be there, Jesus is saying, you will be on the outside looking in, and you will be tormented because you yourself cannot experience the joy that they are experiencing at the feast with the fathers of our faith. And then Jesus said to the centurion, "Go, let it be done just as you believed it would." And his servant was healed at that moment. Jesus here living out the kingdom ideal of true human flourishing by loving his enemy instead of hating him. And he healed the centurion's servant. In this story, Jesus is leading humanity towards flourishing. And he's showing us the true value of all peoples. Even someone who is different than you, even someone who is against you, he is showing the true value and worth of all of humanity. Even the ones that you may hate, even the ones that may have hurt you. And this is hard for the Jews to understand this and hear this. Could you imagine? I mean, he's healing and befriending almost a Roman centurion, healing his servant, doing something extremely kind for him when the Roman centurion and all of the Roman Empire is holding the nation of Israel in slavery. So this is tough for them, and it could even be tough for some of us who have been hurt by others, who have been the object of hatred by others. And Jesus here shows us that he values all of humanity, every single human being. And what he's doing here in the first miracle, in this miracle, and in the forthcoming miracles is he is giving his disciples then and giving us today a vision for where the future is headed, a vision for where the kingdom of God is going. He's giving us a vision, one that the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. He's giving us a vision where enemies will no longer be enemies. And what Isaiah says in chapter 11, verse 6, that in that day the wolf and the lamb will live together, that the leopard will lie down with the baby goat. He's giving us a vision where all of humanity will flourish. Or as Tim Keller says in a sermon on the same topic, and I'm going to paraphrase that, he says that Jesus' miracles and the results are pointing backwards to Eden, where there was no pain, no suffering, and no enemies. And the miracles are also pointing forward to a time in the future when there will be no pain, no suffering, and no enemies. And Jesus' miracles are snippets of that future vision. They are these little pictures of what the world will eventually be. And so Jesus goes on to praise the centurion's faith because he was able to set aside the issues between Rome and the nation of Israel for the flourishing of his servant who was under his care. Someone that, in all honesty, we wonder even why he would care about a measly servant. That certainly wasn't the way of Rome. But at some level, I think that even the maligned centurion saw the value of a human life. Maybe, just maybe, he even caught a glimpse of that future vision Jesus was bringing. And so Jesus compliments his faith. He praises his faith. And faith is this funny thing. I can tell you that faith is not just merely believing that something exists. Faith is this trust and dependence on whoever your faith is in, that they will do what they tell you they're going to do, or that they will do what they have the power to do. And this Roman centurion believed Jesus would do it. And this Roman centurion trusted that Jesus had the authority and could heal his servant. He had faith that Jesus' authority even existed beyond the mere confines of physical space and transcended the known realm. And he said this to Jesus. He said as much. He said he didn't even need him to come to his house to heal the servant. He knew if he said it, that it would be done. The centurion trusted and relied on Jesus to do but what he believed Jesus could and would do. And so that begs the question for anybody out there that's listening. That begs the question is this: how do we get the faith that the Roman centurion had? How do we get to the point where we can trust Jesus in such a way that the centurion trusted him, especially in a time like this that we all are facing collectively together? And here's how. And I think it has everything to do with the word authority in the text. You see, the centurion is saying to Jesus, he is a man under the power and control of Rome and the commanders that they've put over him. And he is a commander over a lot of other soldiers that were underneath him. We saw that in the text. And although it's not overt here, I think it's there. I know it's there. We got to read between the lines a little bit, and it's this. The Jews are captive to Rome, not the other way around. The centurion has the backing of the Roman Empire. The centurion, according to the way of the world in that day, had power over Jesus. And yet, he says to him, Lord, I am not worthy for you to come in my house. And that Roman soldier elevates Jesus above himself. The centurion says he isn't worthy to have a lowly Jew come into his house. The centurion submitted to Jesus' authority. So as we close, if you want the faith of the centurion, if you want the faith that Jesus praises, the question you need to ask yourself is this: who or what has authority over you? Is it Jesus, or is it someone or something else? The centurion was a powerful man who humbled himself to the authority of Jesus, displaying the first beatitude, if you can remember all the way back to the beginning of the Sermon on the Mount. The first beatitude, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Poverty in spirit is showing that you have a deep need and dependence on Jesus, akin to the faith that the Roman centurion was displaying. He needed Jesus. He needed Jesus to heal his servant because he knew that he couldn't, and that led to this great and wonderful faith, and even to that Roman centurion essentially bowing the knee to Jesus' authority. And so as we close, if you could, I'm going to put a question on the screen, or Isaac will have it out here in a picture for you guys, not looking on here on the screen. And as you get to this question, we want you to take time to think on it. And we're going to have a couple, 2-3 minutes, maybe some music playing in the background where you could meditate on it. And as you come to the answers to these following questions, we'd love for you to post them in the comments section and hear your feedback about it. But I think that as you answer this question, it just might help you identify areas in your life that you need to give over to Jesus. It can identify areas in your life that you need to hand over Him that will lead to you being able to have a poverty in spirit and to submit to His authority in your life where you currently aren't, leading you to have this beautiful, amazing faith that the Roman centurion had. So the questions are these. Where do you have power and authority in your life that you need to give over to Jesus? Who or what holds power over you where only Jesus should? What needs do you have that only Jesus can fulfill? Take time to ponder, pray, and answer those questions.
Amen.